Nobody asked for this. That's exactly why it matters. There is a particular kind of silence that falls over a room when something genuinely unexpected appears. Not the rehearsed silence of a press event, not the polite pause before applause, but the involuntary stillness of people who have just seen something they weren't prepared for. That silence happened here, in this room, when the covers came off the 2027 Mosler MT900 GT-R. And here at Premium Automotive Reviews, where we've spent years cutting through the noise to understand what vehicles actually mean beyond their spec sheets and marketing language, we can tell you honestly, this one landed differently. Mosler. The name alone carries a complicated weight. Warren Mosler built the original MT900 the way a man argues a point he knows he's right about. Bluntly, without apology, without concern for whether the establishment was ready to agree. That car humiliated European exotics on track with American V8 muscle and a carbon tub so light it bordered on irresponsible. And then, like so many American supercar dreams, Mosler went quiet. The factory fell silent. The world moved on. What we did not know, and this is the detail that will stay with you long after this video ends, is that the engineering team behind this GT-R made a deliberate and controversial choice to abandon all electronic torque vectoring systems entirely. In a world where every hypercar competitor deploys an alphabet soup of digital intervention, Mosler looked at the data and decided that the MT900 GT-R would live or die on mechanical grip, driver skill, and physical chassis engineering alone. No electronic torque split at the rear axle, no artificial balance correction at the limit, just the car and you. We'll come back to why that decision is either an act of genius or the one thing that will define exactly who this car is not for. Stand in front of it and take a moment before you say anything. The proportions are not trying to impress you. They are simply correct. The hood is long and purposeful, cut flat and low with a series of hood vents that work in both directions, managing underhood thermals while actively pulling pressure from the front axle to keep that nose planted at speed. The greenhouse is compact and raked, the roofline falling away toward the tail in a sweeping fastback gesture that feels unmistakably American while carrying the lean efficiency of a purpose-built racing machine. The body panels are full carbon fiber, laid and cured in-house, finished in a glacial stardust silver that seems to shift between pearl and platinum depending on the light. The headlight housings are low and angular, twin projector elements set within darkened carbon surrounds that give the front fascia a focused, almost predatory calm. There is no aggression here for its own sake. Every surface has a job. The side intakes carved into the rear quarters are enormous, feeding air directly to the supercharger intercoolers without restriction. The rear diffuser is structural carbon, machined rather than molded, and the GT-R wing, mounted high and wide on twin carbon stalks, generates estimated downforce figures that the engineers describe internally as approaching 900 pounds at highway speed. That is not a number invented for drama. At the weight this car carries, that number is simply necessary. The wheels are forged three-piece chrome, wide and deeply dished, exposing enormous monoblock braking hardware behind them. Rolling resistance was actually a point of internal debate. The team wanted a staggered tire setup that would have improved straight-line traction, but compromised the balanced rear drive purity they were protecting. They chose purity. Rear-only drive, 6-speed sequential transaxle, mechanical limited slip differential, and a chassis so stiff the torsional rigidity numbers are measured in values typically associated with purpose-built GT3 class competition cars. Open the door. It is lighter than you expect. Carbon does that. The door pulls away with a satisfying solidity and reveals a cockpit so focused it takes a second to properly process. You drop into a full carbon racing bucket, road legal, but only just, and the seating position places your hips low and your hands high. The Alcantara wrapped steering wheel is flat-bottomed, thickly rimmed, covered in hand-stitched leather. At the 9 and 3 positions where your palms rest naturally, it smells inside like a workshop that has also been visited by a very good tailor. Carbon, leather, the faint residue of heat-cured composite. The instrument cluster is fully digital, clean and wide, displaying exactly what you need and nothing else. The center touch display is integrated into the dash without breaking the cockpit architecture. Software-driven, over-the-air capable, carrying adaptive driver modes, real-time telemetry, and a surprisingly refined infotainment layer for a car that makes no pretense of being a grand tourer. Ambient lighting traces the dash perimeter in a deep red that can be adjusted, but you probably won't adjust it. It is correct as delivered. The carbon-quilted floor panels, the machined aluminum paddle shifters, the red anodized ignition cover protecting the engine start. Every physical touchpoint communicates the same message. This car was built for someone who understands that precision is its own form of luxury. Turn the key. Lift the cover. Press the button. The startup is not gentle. There is a moment, brief, maybe half a second, where the supercharged 7.0-liter LS-based V8 catches itself, organizes its 8 cylinders, and settles into an idle that sits somewhere between a warning and an invitation. At rest, it lopes with the unhurried authority of something that has no reason to prove itself at low RPM. The exhaust note at idle is deep and textured, a resonant, slightly uneven mechanical heartbeat that you feel in your sternum. Before you hear it clearly with your ears, roll it out. Give it partial throttle, and the supercharger begins to build. A rising mechanical whine layering itself beneath the exhaust note like a second instrument joining the arrangement. The estimated output for the GT-R specification sits in the range of 880 to 920 horsepower, depending on configuration, and at no point does that number feel abstract once you are in motion. The throttle response is immediate and linear in a way that modern turbocharged cars, for all their sophistication, struggle to fully replicate. There is no spool time. The power is simply there when you ask for it, scaling without hesitation, from gentle to violent in the same continuous motion. The gear shifts through the sequential transaxle are sharp and physical. Each ratio slots home with a mechanical percussion that vibrates through the chassis and into the seat. Upshifts under full load produce a momentary compression, a brief force that pushes you into the harness, followed by an instantaneous resumption of acceleration. At high RPM, the exhaust opens into something that can only honestly be described as ferocious. The 4-pipe rear exits deliver an overlapping, multi-harmonic wail that carries across open road, in a way that seems to disturb the air around it rather than simply pass through it. The steering is unassisted hydraulic rack. This, too, is a controversial choice in 2027. The weight is significant at low speed. Parking this car is a commitment. But from the first moment you begin moving with intent, that weight becomes information. Road surface texture communicates itself directly through the column, through the rim, into your palms. Every degree of front axle loading, every change in grip condition, every early signal of what the chassis is doing beneath you arrives before you would have had time to consciously process it through an electronic filter. The car talks to you constantly. You simply have to be willing to listen. The suspension is pushrod actuated front and rear, race-derived geometry with road-appropriate damping that has been tuned through extensive development to absorb public road surfaces without surrendering the flat, controlled body motion the track configuration demands. It is not a comfortable car in the way that comfort is usually offered in this price segment. It is instead an honest car. It communicates everything. A rough surface section on a back road arrives as clear information rather than filtered numbness, and when you reach open asphalt and the chassis settles into its natural rhythm, the sensation of balance and mechanical cohesion is extraordinary. There is no artificial stability system catching your moments of imprecision and correcting them invisibly. This is the choice we mentioned at the beginning. In a straight line, in controlled conditions, on a track where the driver is capable, the MT900 GT-R is perhaps the most directly connected supercar experience available at any price. In the wrong hands, on the wrong surface, with the wrong level of respect, it will remind you immediately that connection is a two-way arrangement. Mosler has been transparent about this. The GT-R is not for everyone. It is for someone specific. That person is not necessarily fearless. They are honest. They have driven enough cars to know the difference between performance served to them and performance earned by them, and they find the latter genuinely more satisfying. They understand mechanical systems at an intuitive level that doesn't require formal engineering education, just years of attention and genuine curiosity. They are not chasing status. They already know what this car is. They've known about Mosler for 20 years, and they've waited quietly for something exactly like this. The spiritually correct environment for the MT900 GT-R is not a track day, though it will excel there. It is an empty Nevada highway at 5 in the morning, completely straight, perfectly surfaced, running toward a horizon that hasn't fully decided whether it's night or morning yet. At that moment, with that exhaust, under those conditions, this car makes a kind of sense that is difficult to explain to people who have not experienced it. Pricing for the GT-R is expected to come in around the $380,000 to $430,000 range for production specification, with bespoke commission options extending meaningfully beyond that. Is it worth it? What you are paying for is not advanced driver aids. It is not seamless technology integration. It is not a warranty that makes the ownership experience feel frictionless. What you are paying for is a car built by a small group of people who refuse to make it easier for you to drive it badly. That is not a value proposition that appears in most brochures. It is, depending on your perspective, either the most authentic thing available in this segment or the most impractical. The MT900 GT-R occupies a category that genuinely has no direct competitor. It is not a hypercar in the modern sense. It is not a track day toy without road manners. It is not a luxury grand tourer. It is the living continuation of a philosophy that argues the most meaningful thing an automobile can do is demand something real from its driver rather than simply deliver speed to them. That is a rare position. It is becoming rarer. Before we close, we want to hear from you. Subscribe if you haven't already, and tell us in the comments. Do you believe that removing electronic driver aids makes a performance car more honest and more valuable? Or does it simply make it more dangerous and less accessible to the majority of people who could afford it? Both arguments have real merit. We want to know where you stand. The 2027 Mosler MT900 GT-R is not a car for the era we live in. It is a correction to it.